Spring is coming. Today, I'm sharing the garden tasks being done to prepare and what to wait to do until after your last frost. Need a checklist to help you keep track of all of these tasks? No worries, I will put a link to a downloadable one right here. I'm Angela from Growing in the Garden. My garden is in Mesa, Arizona. I want to help you succeed even if you're gardening in tough conditions. Let's start with pruning. This job is crucial to ensure this season's harvests and blooms. If you have deciduous fruit trees like this peach tree, the best time to prune them is once they drop their leaves. When you're pruning, look for the 4 Ds: dead, dying, damaged, and dysfunctional. Try not to remove more than 25% of the tree at a time. Save 1-year-old wood to where buds and spurs are facing outward. Asparagus fronds grow large and they're giving lots of energy back to the roots. Before spring, it's the perfect time to cut them back, top with worm castings and compost and a nice thick layer of mulch. Once spring arrives, the spears will start shooting up through the bed. It's the best time to give your existing roses a hard prune. Clean up all dead wood, crossing branches, touching canes, and non-producing canes. Don't be afraid to give them an aggressive prune. They'll respond with a flush of new growth and blooms this spring. Before long, you'll see new growth and buds forming. The best time to prune grapes is when they're dormant. You're removing most of last year's growth to keep the structure to a manageable size. Cut off 90% of what grew last year and leave 2 or 3 canes. Look for good wood. For young vines, prune back to 1 young vine that will become the permanent trunk. It's also time to cut back garlic chives. Cut them off at ground level. Now would also be a great time to divide them if you want to add some more around your garden. Once they're cut back, I'm going to top them with a few worm castings and some compost and mulch. Before long, you'll see new shoots emerge and it will be full and lush. We had a cold winter. It got down to below 25 and below freezing for several days, which is unusual for my area. Many plants, like this hibiscus, died, so I'll be taking this out. Others just suffered damage, and so I'm waiting till after our last frost date to cut off that frost-damaged parts of those plants. Don't be in a hurry to prune off the damage. Wait until spring has arrived. The frost-damaged section is protecting the plant, and if you cut it off and then we freeze again, the plant will suffer additional harm. Once the danger of frost has passed and you start to see new growth, then it's time to prune off the damaged sections. So I'm going to wait to cut this back until after our last frost date. This unusually cold weather has been a really good learning experience for me. It's been so interesting to walk around the yard and see the effect that cold weather has had on my plants. I've been surprised by the hardiness of some plants and surprised that others really don't like the cold. It is sad when plants die, but use this as an opportunity to learn about the microclimates in your yard. This is the coldest part of my yard right through here. If you've got wildflower seeds sprouting, thin them just a little bit so each of the wildflowers have room to grow. When wildflowers grow and drop seeds, they drop so many seeds and there's often too many. Overcrowded wildflowers will still grow, but plants with better airflow and adequate spacing grow and bloom better. This is the time to plant bare root fruit trees. Those roots will get established quickly. Don't be afraid to give it an aggressive, hard prune. Cut it down to 18 to 24 inches. This helps keep the tree small and encourages a lower scaffold of branches. If you're thinking about adding roses, it's the perfect time to add them to your garden. Spend some time deciding which variety you want to plant and get them planted. You've probably got lots of leaves from winter and fall. Now is the time to get them in the compost bin and get it turned into compost. That way it will be ready to add to your gardens this spring. Before the season starts is a great time to test your soil. I send it in the mail and see the results online within just a couple of days. And that way I'll know, not guess, what my soil needs before the season starts. Use a probe or dig down and get soil from 5 to 7 different spots to a depth of about 6 inches. I'll use one kit for a lot of my raised beds, another kit for some of my containers, and another kit for in-ground areas. It's citrus season in Arizona and I am so excited. I've got lots of citrus ripening in my yard right now. The wonderful thing about citrus is it will stay on the tree for months. So don't harvest more than what you need or what you're going to eat or share. When the fruit begins to soften and fall off, that's the time to get all of the fruit off of the tree. These Meyer lemons have been ready for a while and they're starting to get soft. So I'll want to harvest the rest of these pretty soon. The fruit on this Moro Blood Orange is amazing, and I love how after a few cool nights like we've had, the flavor and color intensifies. Look how red these are. Valencia is one of the last citrus to ripen. Most of these fruits are still a little bit green, so I'm going to leave them on the tree. Once they're ready, they make the most delicious juice. This is another blood orange, Sanguinelli. I'm going to take this inside and sample it. I'm not quite sure if it's ready or not. Enjoy all the yummy citrus, but don't forget the first time to fertilize is coming up pretty soon. If you're planning on planting ginger, buy some ginger and let it sprout indoors. That way, when it warms up outside, it will be ready to plant. If you're planting sweet potatoes and you have several weeks before your growing season starts, stick a potato in some water and it will sprout. If it's getting closer to the time that you need to plant, I like using the soil method because you get slips quicker. Once the slips form, pull them off the sweet potato, stick them in some water, and they'll form roots. Once there's plenty of roots and the soil is warm, it's time to plant. Look at all of these seed catalogs. It's so tempting to order everything. But before I do that, I'm going to go through my existing seeds, organize my seeds, and make a plan for what I'm going to plant. After a couple of seasons of saving and planting seeds, I had seed packets and bags of saved seeds everywhere. I took some time to organize my seeds, and now I know exactly what I have and what I need. I've got lots of seeds here, and then also lots of saved seeds, so I'll be ready for all of the seed swaps this spring. Now is the time to look at your local planting guide and make a plan. If there are seeds you need, get them ordered as soon as possible. I went out of town and this broccoli flowered, but now that I see all the bees, I can't bring myself to pick it. I'm going to harvest all of the side shoots and leave this center head for the bees. I'm catching this one at the right time. I'm going to cut down several inches, harvest that head before it forms blossoms. Also going to harvest some of these side shoots as well. I'll leave this plant in place because it will continue producing side shoots for weeks. While I was on vacation, my friends and I had the yummiest kale salad. I wrote down all the ingredients and I can't wait to make it at home. This cauliflower is looking really good. I'm not sure if it's quite ready and I want to let it get as big as possible. So to see if it's getting close to harvest, you check around the outside of the cauliflower. And if it's beginning to separate, that tells you that it probably won't grow any larger, it's just going to separate. So it's definitely time to harvest this cauliflower. So I harvest a couple of inches below the head, snip it off. You can saute and eat these leaves. They can get a little tough though, so I like to freeze dry them and make them into green powder. So we're using all the parts of this cauliflower. Unlike broccoli, which forms side shoots, cauliflower is one and done. But instead of pulling out this whole plant, which will disturb the soil and pull out lots of roots, I cut it off right there. And then those roots will add organic matter back into the soil. Looks like this one is starting to separate as well. I'm going to go ahead and harvest it. Market Express turnips. They grew so fast. Look how big they are. The nice thing about turnips is the greens are totally edible and delicious. I'm going to harvest several of these. I like to harvest them when they're a couple inches wide, about the size of a big radish. That gives some others room to grow. The rest of these turnips aren't quite ready. I'll leave them in here for a little bit longer. As temperatures get warmer and we get closer to spring, Keep a close eye on your cool season crops. Get them harvested before it gets too warm. The time you spend now preparing for your spring and summer garden will help it be successful. Take some time to go through these tasks and get them done. You'll have beautiful harvests next season.